Hello sa inyong lahat. Sana ay okay tayo sa gitna ng init ngayon. Nawala tayo saglit last week pero nagbabalik tayo para sa isa na namang episode ng Shapers and Shakers, Personalities of EDSA Revolution, kung saan itinatampok natin ang mga individual na naging influential sa bahaging ito ng ating kasaysayan. We are your hosts. Ako si Lee.
Ako si Bro.
Ako si Aaron.
Ako si Vec at nakikinig kayo sa podcast Conversations on Philippine History, Politics, and Society. So isa sa mga pinakamahalagang issue na dapat pag-usapan pag tinatalakay ang history ng martial law at Marcos regime ay ang issue ng human rights at ng human rights violations. Karamihan sa mga anti-Marcos activists hanggang sa kasalukuyan ay talagang nagbibigay pansin di lamang sa milyong dolyar na nakaw na yaman ng mga Marcos at ng kanilang mga cronies, pero maging sa pagdabag ng Marcos regime at ng Marcos military sa karapatang pantao.
Tama, kasi talagang talamak ang human rights violations nung mga panahon na yun. Sa estimate ng Amnesty International, mayroong humigit kumulang 3,257 na kaso ng extrajudicial killings, 35,000 victims of torture, 737 desaparecidos o yung mga forced disappearances, and 70,000 cases of political detention.
So, masasabi talaga na isa sa mga tagumpay ng EDSA People Power ay yung restoration ng isang uri ng demokrasya na hindi naman nag-enable sa ganitong klaseng paglabag sa karapatang pantao. Hindi natin sinasabi na totally walang human rights violation after Marcos. In fact, the human rights crisis in the Philippines was at its worst 3 decades after his ouster. Ito naman yung panahon ni Rodrigo Duterte.
Exactly, no? So, kamakailan lumabas yung libro na sinulat ni Patricia Evangelista on Duterte's drug war titled Some People Need Killing, a memoir of murder in my country, kung saan ikinuwento niya yung extent ng karahasan ng war on drugs ni Rodrigo Duterte that killed thousands of Filipinos, far exceeding the number of extrajudicial killings done by the Marcos administration. Isa sa kaibahan ng human rights violations sa panahon ni Marcos at ni Duterte ay nung panahon ni Marcos, walang constitutional safeguard yung mga Pilipino laban sa pang-aabuso ng Estado sa kapangyarihan nito.
Tama kasi isa sa mga political victory kumbaga ng EDSA People Power ay yung pag-ratify sa 1987 Constitution, which contained an excellent Bill of Rights and specific provisions that would make sure na hindi na mauulit ang diktadurya na kagaya ng kay Ferdinand Marcos Sr. However, tulad ng sinabi ni Aaron, hindi perfect ang naging pag-uphold at pagprotekta sa karapatang pantao ng mga Pilipino after EDSA. Marami pa ding mga aktivista halimbawa ang dinadakip, nawawala o hindi naman kaya ay sinasalvage sa iba't ibang period ng ating post-EDSA history. And the Duterte presidency seemed to be the culmination of this tragedy.
Ganun pa man, meron pa rin pakonti-konting liwanag sa dilim, sabi nga nila. At isa na dyan ay ang mga personalidad na itatampok natin sa episode na ito. Walang iba kundi ang dating chairperson ng Commission on Human Rights lawyer and activist Chito Gascon. Let's talk about his life and struggle sa ating pagbabalik.
Jose Luis Martin Gascon, born on May 26, 1964, first got involved in politics as a student at the University of the Philippines, kung saan una siyang nag-enroll noong 1981 as a philosophy major. So, he first joined the UP Student Catholic Action and then went on to form a student political party called Tugon. So, nung mga panahon na to, kaka-restore lang ng University Student Council kasi the Student Council was banned and abolished nung martial law. So, Tugon or later nagkakaisang Tugon started running for student council elections and finally in 1985 won the majority of the seats in the council. Chito was the first UP Student Council chairperson from this political formation or political party.
Pero ayon sa kanyang mga kaibigan at kasama, naging maigting yung involvement ni Chito sa student politics at sa anti-Marcos movement after the assassination of Ninoy Aquino. He joined anti-Marcos demonstrations and rallies na talagang umalagwa after 1983. Chito was elected as USC chairperson in 1985, and in the same year, nagkataon naman that Marcos arrogantly called for a snap election. Nakita ni Chito ito bilang pagkakataon na palitan si Marcos. So he and his comrades decided to support the candidacy of Cory Aquino.
Yes, so hindi kasama si Chito dun sa mga aktivista who opted to campaign for the boycott of the said election. And of course, alam naman natin ang kinahinatnan ng election na yan. EDSA People Power happened, Marcos fled, and Cory Aquino assumed the Philippine presidency. At syempre, isa sa mga kauna-unahang agenda ng Aquino administration ay ang pag-draft at pag-ratify ng bagong konstitusyon. So, Cory Aquino formed the Constitutional Commission with a spirit of sectoral representation on June 1986, less than 4 months after the People Power.
So yung mga nag-draft ng constitution natin ngayon ay binuo ng 48 members na galing sa iba't ibang sektor. May mga abogado, entrepreneurs, academics, journalist at iba pa. Ngayon, syempre hindi naman dapat mawala sa members na yan ay yung representative ng mga kabataan. And Chito Gascon, as the chair of the Student Council of University of the Philippines at that time, was appointed as a member of the commission. He was the youngest member at the age of 22.
As the youth representative in the commission, Gascon was tasked to work on provisions that would secure the rights, protection, and welfare of the youth. No? So, he was also an appointed sectoral representative for the youth in the 8th Philippine Congress, which was the first Congress after the ratification of the Constitution in 1987. Dito, Gascon championed legislation that empowered the youth in governance like the Sangguniang Kabataan. He served in this Congress until 1992.
In about the same year, Chito entered the UP College of Law, kung saan naging kasintahan niya si Melissa Mercado. He finished his law studies in 1996, and then he went on to study at the University of Cambridge, St. Edmund's College, for a Master of Laws degree specializing in human rights, law of peace, and settlement of international disputes. Mahaba yung naging karera ni Chito sa larangan ng human rights, peace, at good governance. He was a member of many civic groups like Kongreso ng Mamamayang Pilipino or COMPIL, and worked for liberal think tanks like the National Institute for Policy Studies.
Despite numerous appointments in government, like, panel member at the peace negotiations with the National Democratic Front noong 2001, at Education Undersecretary from 2002 to 2005, Chito was not a politician. He never ran for public office, but that did not mean that he was an apolitical individual. In fact, to many of his friends and comrades, Chito Gascon's politics was actually very clear. He was a liberal through and through. He was a member of the Liberal Party where he served as its Director General and later on, its Vice President of Social Movements. I can confidently say that Chito was one of the few Filipinos and members of the Liberal Party who really understood and upheld the principles of political liberalism. At makita yan sa kanyang international engagements and membership, for example, sa Liberal International.
Makikita din ang liberal convictions ni Chito sa mga naging posisyon niya at various times in history. So tulad ng nabanggit na kanina, aktibo siya bilang leader estudyante noong EDSA People Power at maging noong EDSA DOS. And he tried working with the Arroyo administration until he resigned as Education Undersecretary noong 2005. Well, upon the eruption of the Hello Garci controversy. In one of the interviews published by the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ, in 2006, Chito expressed his frustrations with how Philippine democracy turned out 20 years after EDSA. But if Chito Gascon was known for one thing, and one thing only, it would be his unrelenting optimism and idealism.
May documentary na inilabas yung Rappler about Chito Gascon, and it started with a recording of him speaking before his former comrades in Nagkakaisang Tugon. No? So, ang ganda lang nung isang part nung speech na yon, which really showed his idealism. No? So, pakinggan natin.
On the rock is the story of the stonecutter. The lowly person, he goes to the mountain every day and pounds the rock to make the stone. Pounds it 1 time, 10 times, 100 times. The rock does not break, but he has perseverance. He will keep pounding the rock, and he has hope. In fact, it's not just hope, it's confidence. He knows that the rock will break. Was it the last strike that made the stone? The answer is no. Every single strike, every moment, whether in times of victory or frustration, what you do every day will make the difference. That is what we will have to do together until we get the job done.
Pounding the rock, no? So I think this really embodies Chito Gascon's work on the causes that he really believed in, no? So at naging consistent siya sa mga paninindigan niya na makikita sa iba pang naging advocacies at organizations niya kagaya ng InsightGov or yung International Center for Innovation, Transformation, and Excellence in Governance at Libertas or yung Lawyers League for Liberty. Pero yung masasabi nating pinakamalaking hamon sa mahabang career ni Chito bilang human rights advocate at civil servant ay magsisimula noong 2016. So pag-usapan natin yan sa ating pagbabalik.
In 2015, isang taon bago matapos ang kanyang termino, former President Noynoy Aquino appointed Chito Gascon as a chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights. So, CHR is an independent constitutional body that is mandated to investigate human rights violations, especially those that were committed by state actors. At syempre, alam natin na ibang level yung naging hamon sa CHR under Gascon's leadership sa panahon ng administrasyon ni Duterte.
Yes, gaya ng nabanggit natin at the beginning of this episode, talagang grabe ang mga kaso ng paglabag sa karapatang pantao sa ilalim ng administrasyong Duterte, lalo na in the conduct of war on drugs as its centerpiece program sa pamumuno mismo ng Philippine National Police. Pero simulat sa pool, hindi naman talaga nangimi si Duterte in expressing how much he abhorred the concept of human rights. Ilang beses niyang minura ang CHR. He also attacked Gascon in many addresses and interviews and really tried to silence those who called him out on his bloody drug war.
The Duterte presidency was really a dark period in the Commission on Human Rights. Kasi bukod sa tahasang kinokondena ng presidente mismo at ng kanyang mga taga-suporta ang human rights bilang kaaway di umano ng peace and order at enabler ng mga adik at kriminal, talagang they made concerted effort para pigilan ng CHR na gawin ang trabaho nito. Kung atin ngang maaalala, in 2017, the House of Representatives, filled with President Duterte's allies and supporters, approved the motion to give the Commission an annual budget of only 1,000 pesos. 119 representatives voted for it, while only 32 said no.
Grabe talaga yan, no? So, talagang they wanted to send a message na nung mga panahon na yan about the position of the Philippine government pagdating sa usapin ng karapatang pantao, no? So, nakakakilabot kung iisipin how the Philippine state mismo ang garapalang nagsasabi na di kami naniniwala sa karapatang pantao, no? Kasi 'di ba, if the state itself with all of the power at its disposal repudiates the truth and inviolability of human rights, no? Paano na lang yung mga Pilipino, 'di ba?
Agreed. Buti na lang kahit papano may ilan pa ring institutions of democracy na nagwo-work sa bansa kasi that motion of giving the CHR a budget of 1,000 pesos was overturned by the Senate. Pero kahit na, di ba? Iba kasi yung kumbaga discursive damage ng ganyang mockery sa CHR. Fortunately, makikita yung kumbaga ay glimmer of hope sa civil society kasi marami ding mga grupo ang nag-express ng suporta nila noon sa CHR at kay Chair Chito. Kumbaga, nag-backfire yung pambabalahura ng Kongreso.
Yes, and unfortunately, isa lang yan sa mga matitinding pag-atake ng Duterte administration sa human rights. Duterte threatened and harassed human rights advocates like UN Special Rapporteur Agnes Callamard, who was not allowed entry in the Philippines to investigate the EJ case, and ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda, who was threatened arrest should she set foot in the Philippines. In the latter part of his presidency, the Duterte administration would pivot into harassing activists through egregious legislations like the anti-terror law. Tumaas din yung bilang ng mga aktivista, mga lawyer at mga mamamahayag na nasa-salvage o hindi kaya ay nawawala na lang.
In the midst of all these, Chito Gascon remained steadfast and did his best with all the cards he was dealt with. He fearlessly condemned Duterte, and in many interviews expressed his readiness to face whatever it is that Duterte would hurl at him. Dito makikita talaga yung tapang niya kasi alam naman natin how vindictive Duterte can be. I mean, Senator Leila de Lima was imprisoned for years on trumped-up charges. Pero nanatiling matapang at matatag si Chito Gascon.
Gascon also fearlessly spoke before the international community on many occasions. No? In one of his messages, he recognized that while these are extraordinary times, Duterte was not an isolated case, and the struggle for human rights in the time of fascist resurgence was a global phenomenon, which warrants a global collective action. No? So, pakinggan natin yung huling bahagi ng mensahe niya sa Oslo Freedom Forum noong 2018.
The world has changed. Our democracy must evolve as well. We each have a responsibility to mount a response to this existential challenge that will affirm our most cherished values of truth over deception, the power of the people over strongman rule, and hope over despair. But we must do this together, building a solidarity to pursue a politics of civility and inclusion, and employing non-violent strategies in our parliaments, in our courts, in the cyberspace, and yes, also in our streets and in our communities. We must ignite courage and push back. Each day, we should direct a righteous anger in a manner that is both purposive and strategic towards those that would deny us our dignity. If we fail to do so, we will see the unabated consolidation of authoritarian rule. We are all called to protect human rights, to defend the ramparts of international justice, and to deepen our democracy in order to ensure that all who seek to diminish and negate our freedoms will be held accountable.
Hope over despair, politics of civility, righteous anger. Yan ang panawagan ni Chair Chito in the midst of authoritarian demagoguery that menaces the world at this time.
Sa kasamaang palad, Chair Chito would not see his term as the chair of CHR through. Pumano siya noong October 9, 2021 sa edad na 57 dahil sa COVID-19. I think marami ang makikita itong pagpanaw niya bilang isang trahedya and also a cruel irony kasi alam naman natin kung gaano kapalpak ang naging response ng Duterte administration sa pandemya at ang lungkot lang na ito mismong sakit na ito yung bumawi sa buhay ng isa sa pinakamagiting na figure ng opposition.
Pero ayon mismo sa kwento ni Melissa Mercado Gascon, na may bahay ni Chair Chito, he refused to be brought to the hospital kahit na nakikita niya ni Melissa na malala na yung symptoms niya. Sabi niya daw, I can still breathe on my own. At ayon kay Melissa, ang tingin niya raw ay ayaw magpadala ni Chito sa ospital because he did not want to occupy a slot doon sa mga hospital na yun na very limited at that time. Kasi sa tingin niya, mayroong mas nangangailangan nun. So hanggang sa huli makikita pa din yung malasakit ni Chair Chito sa kapwa Pilipino.
So maaga mang nawala si Chair Chito, yung legacy at mensahe ng buhay niya ay nananatili sa atin. At lalo na sa mga naging kasama niya sa CHR, sa mga estudyante niya, at sa mga naging kakapit-bisig niya sa laban para sa demokrasya at karapatang pantao.
Yes, hanggang dito na lang ang episode na ito. Abangan nyo ang season finale ng podcast sa susunod na linggo. Listen to our past and future episodes on all major streaming apps and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast TV.
Please follow us on our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, now X, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
For more information about the show, visit our website, podcast.org. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig and as always, have a good day.